So legendary college football coach Nick Saban has ruffled a lot of feathers, even called a hypocrite in his latest testimony at Capitol Hill in regards to NIL and the state of college football and college sports in general. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of people are not hearing what he's saying and kind of twisting some of his words, because when I heard it and I listened to the full interview, which I have in the description below, I noticed a couple of things that I think some people miss. Let's dive into it. Before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. Check out the Autograph app. We have partnered with them on providing you all great rewards and promotional tickets and everything for your sports fandom. And so you can check out the link in the description below. That is where you can sign up, add promo code Unfair Sports. You can get rewarded for the things you already do, reading news, watching, content from some of your favorite creators. They're all inside of that app, and they're being more and more being added every day. Podcasts to listen to in their hub. Check it all out in there. And there's a promotion going on too. So check it out in the description below. Link, as well as a promo code Unfair Sports. That lets them know I sent you. Let's talk about what Nick Saban said at Capitol Hill. And let's watch his video real quick.
All the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exist in college athletics. So it's always was about developing players. It was always about helping people be more successful in life. My wife even said to me, we'd have all the recruits over on Sunday with their parents for breakfast, and she would always meet with the mothers and talk about how she was going to help and impact their sons and how they would be well taken care of. And she came to me, like right before I retired, and said, why are we doing this? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all they care about is how much you're going to pay them. They don't care about how you're going to develop them, which is all what we've always done. So why are we doing this?
Now, it's very interesting because he says the landscape of college football has changed over the last 50 years. It's not what he got in for. He was getting in more to develop players and all of that jazz, right? And I get where a lot of people are like, dude, you're only saying that because you felt like you were forced to retire because, things aren't going your way, right? And I'm going to tell you all I disagree. There's two things on this. One, I feel like the retirement of him is he's 72 years old and he ain't going to be able to handle all these changes. And it's just being 72. Working 12 to 14-hour shifts ain't easy when you're 72. It's a lot easier when you're 52. And honestly, at that point, for some it's easy, some it ain't. Depends on the love. But I digress on that part. Saban here is basically saying, to me, this is what I'm reading and what he's saying. He wants the kids to get paid. But he wants them to get paid in the right way, right? And what do we mean by the right way? So he pointed out in the full video clip of, first off, they do the Sunday thing. They bring in recruits. They talk to, Miss Terry talks to the parents and everything. And in a lot of situations, a lot of the kids really only care about how much they're getting paid. That's not something that's been any different for like the last 40 years in college football. Because, kids have been getting paid under the table. We know about schools getting a death penalty for doing stuff. There's been players that want money because they know that they're going to be, they're highly coveted and they've also generated a lot of money. Well, the thing is since that started, the pot of how much not only the NCAA and college sports is bringing in, the revenue generators, but also the coaching salaries have ballooned. We got coaches making more than NFL head coaches, right? That should be some red flags there. That if they're there to truly develop and all of that, they're making a lot of money doing it. I ain't knocking them for it because you get that money, free market capitalism, you're going to make that money. But when it comes to the players, Nick Saban is saying he wants them to get paid. So there should be a model that provides them with revenue sharing. He's hoping that there's a way to do it without making them employees. I don't see how you can. It just sounds like, how do you do that? Outside of to making them contract work, I'm not someone on the legal side and all of that portion of it, but I asked those questions myself. That was like, how can you make this work? Because the revenue is doing nothing but getting bigger and bigger. Live sports are getting larger and larger in rights fees because it's the one commodity that everybody wants and fans continuously watch and grow. Case in point with college, NFL's TV contract is huge. They're making billions over there and they have their revenue share set up with the Players Association or whatnot, right? So the players get a piece of the pie and the owners get their piece. For the college level, you got to remember these schools have built-in fan bases and it's all school pride. The best part about college sports is it adds camaraderie and pride for your school, noise talking with rivals, blah, blah, blah. So as kids enroll in these schools, a lot of them become fans of said school they went to. And in some of them, if they don't go to the bigger schools that are all over the television, they're fans of the school they graduated, as well as a big program is who they've adopted as their school. So the money is just going to keep growing. That's just what it is. People want sports. They love live sports because it's the one piece of entertainment that we quote unquote don't think is rigged, right? It's just, it happens live and you just enjoy it year after year. And so we plan our lives around sports. And so he wants to find a way to revenue share. Now, and when he talked about NIL, he said this as well as Coach Prime. Coach Prime even talked about this, right? Name, image, and likeness. And for a lot of people, they don't know what name, image, and likeness means. What NIL actually supposed to be is endorsement deals. That's it. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, I want to know what these kids are making. They don't need to tell you that. That's none of your business, right? I don't need to know how much you make every year, right? These are endorsement deals for them to do endorsement-based stuff. And that's kind of where Saban is coming from and where he's getting pushback. He's asking the question, these NIL deals are not really NIL deals. I mean, sure, the collectives may say that they're going to have them appear at a charity event or something of that nature, but typically your NIL deal is what some players get, like, you know, the Cavender twins. They were getting Boost Mobile, and they were all over billboards for them, promoting Boost and certain drinks and, you know, Gatorade and all of that. That's what an endorsement is. You're creating a brand and you're showing brand awareness. Unfortunately for a lot of players, they're not marketable brands, right? You have to be a brand for people to do it. So the collectives come in, basically get a whole bunch of donors in, throw money in a pot and start, you know, giving it to players. Saban even said himself, he's not against kids getting paid. The thing is that these aren't real NIL deals, right? And it's becoming a problem. And where the problem comes into play is everybody wants parity, right? Ain't been no parity in sports. The game shifts based upon who is adopted or adapted to the way the sport is going. And that's where they go. Now, you're going to have situations where you're going to have those players where they just want money. I'll tell you this. It's kind of why I like the recruiting that certain schools do, namely my team, Oklahoma. Their focus is on the developing of men and developing them to be, you know, contributors to society. And so when you hear about them out on players that are about that bag only, they're out. So they're trying to find guys they can develop and outdo those, because Saban mentioned this in here. Some of the coaches have been telling them that kids are coming in underdeveloped, which that's kind of the point of coaching, right? Your job is to go coach them up and find that. Now, you know, if they don't produce in the NFL, they ain't getting paid. So they got to figure that out. At the college level, technically the college level's goal is to develop them as people more than anything, right? We see it as a minor league system, but is it really the minor leagues, or should it be considered the minor leagues? If you want this to be a development league where they're developing all your talent, then we got to find a way to get these kids some checks, because they're bringing in tons of money to these schools. I mean, you go look at the school money that's coming in from revenue from football. I mean, your top 10 schools are bringing in well over $100 million a year. Now, they're spending a lot of it, you know, updates to facilities and salaries. They're doing all of that. Cool. But the revenue that these kids are bringing in, yeah, they need to be able to get a piece of it. Now, this is the thing that makes everything tough. So we talked about parity, right? The question we have to ask ourselves is, how do you create parity in a sport where parity has never actually existed, right? Certain schools care about sports more than others. And it's 100% recognized in the way that those schools function, right? Your D2 and D3 schools, some give scholarships, some don't. D3 doesn't give scholarships, but they still got all these sports, and they do it because they feel like they have to attract more kids to the school. Now, sports have become an attraction piece to it. The other thing behind that is that not all schools have the same budgets. Now, a lot of schools have a lot of kids come in, but a lot in those situations, a lot of the alum care more about the academic aspect of it than they do the actual athletic aspect of it, which is fine. That's the game. And so if a school cares more about sports, like their alumni base care more about the sport than others, which technically a lot of your bigger schools do, SEC, some Big 12, Big 10, you know, back when the Pac existed, there's certain schools, ACC, certain schools care more about sports than others. And you see that in the investment they put into the sport. It's not something that you can just fix overnight. Now, the way to balance that is what Saban is mentioning. Doing some sort of revenue split, because you're going to find the funds if you really want all these sports to participate. You're also going to find the funds to make sure that all the other sports that the schools have will be able to participate. The problem is the pie at the top is going to be cut, and that's what a lot of these people do not want to happen. The money's there. It can happen. Just don't think that if we invest all our money in football, everything else has to die. That's a choice. That's a choice the schools would make, is to sacrifice everybody else to be good at football. Because then at that point, the only thing they care about is football. Don't let them lie to you in regards to that. The money is there. We are seeing the money. It's there. Just invest it in everything. And so that's where that revenue share piece comes in, to give it a competitive balance across all the 100 and something schools that exist at the D1 level and all of that jazz, right? It's going to be work to figure it out. Basketball side, you got 300 and something teams. It's going to be work to try to figure out how to divide that pie. And to be honest, the pie made to be divided very, very small. It'll be cut down. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You provide what you can based upon the numbers that you're able to produce. And so if you want to make the competitive balance, yeah, that revenue share piece from the top down into everybody can work. But the other thing with these collectives is they're not going anywhere unless there's sort of regulation to eliminate them. And I say that because donors are going to find a way to get money to these kids. They've been doing it for years. Back in the day, it was illegal and there was consequences. Today, it's all through the collective, so there's no consequence. Will all the players be able to get paid? I mean, top tier positions, offense and defensive line, as well as quarterbacks, it costs money. Because if you want to have the best, you got to have the best on the field. If you want to be the best, you got to have the best on the field. Let me put it that way. So for everyone to believe that this is going to be equal playing grounds, it's not. It'll never be that way, because a lot of schools care about this a lot more than others do. And that's just the real of it. And so Saban here, I feel like he was kind of misrepresenting what he was saying, because in a way, that's what he's telling you. College sports itself is changing dramatically, and we need to do something to change with it, especially with the way the transfer portal works. I mean, the NCAA, we're seeing this infancy of all of this, and the NCAA has made adjustments. They've made changes of dates. They've made changes of NIL stuff. There's been changes here and there. But the big thing is that name, image, and likeness is name, image, and likeness. And the good thing about that is that the only regulation I appreciate out of it is that none of these deals can carry over into the pros, as in whatever contract signed in NIL stays in college. So once they leave, they already have a relationship with said brand. They can start a new deal. But then at that point, the question is, how marketable are you by those brands? That's just what it is. Like, you still see guys with car dealership contracts. You still see them with shoe deals. Still see them doing commercials. That stuff will exist for as long as endorsements are allowed. And they're allowed at the pro level. They're allowed at college now. So that's where the difference. Now, there's only one thing I refute with Nick Saban, is he talked about the degree piece. Kids transferring a lot. They're not getting degrees. Most of the transfers that I really see, truly, are graduates. There's a ton of graduate transfers. You can't be a grad transfer without graduating, if I'm correct. Y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, but how are you a grad transfer if you ain't graduated? I would love someone to explain that to me, because to me, that's the one thing is, if you're not a graduate, how you being a grad transfer? So I like how Nick Saban laid this out. Hop in the comments, let your boy know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you all. What do you think about all these changes that are coming down the line? I want to throw this out there. I've had some people ask my opinion, and so here you go. If you made it this far, you like the content, please hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Love for you to join this family of college football fans. We talk a lot of OU football here, SEC football, and college football in general. Having a blast doing it. So we got our series on the 2024 Sooner Room review. You'll see videos over the next week and some change. So go check them out. Let us know your thoughts. We'll talk soon. Peace.